to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that, well, sounds maybe a bit dry. A city charter. But stick with us, because this document, it's actually the foundational blueprint for an entire city, seriously. We're talking about the rules impacting everything, your commute, long-term growth, even whether you can find a place to eat after 10 p.m. Today, we're diving deep into Augusta, Georgia's ongoing review of its consolidated city-county government charter, our mission. To really unpack a recent public hearing, we want to explore what a charter actually is, why it's being reviewed right now, and get into the really diverse and often passionate views from the community. All our insights today come straight from the transcript of that hearing, which you can find on the Augusta, Georgia government YouTube channel.
And that's a key point. This isn't just some abstract legal exercise. Revisiting a core document like this, one that literally defines how your local government works, it has huge implications for everyone's daily life. It's a significant undertaking.
Okay, so let's unpack this term city charter. What exactly are we talking about here? The Vinson Institute of Government, they're sort of the experts guiding this process, calls it the foundational document for local government. Think of it like Augusta Richmond's own constitution. It sets up the legal framework, defines the structure, mayor, council, commission manager, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it outlines the broad roles, the responsibilities, grants powers, limits powers, and it's the legal basis for passing ordinances too. So what's the trickiest part for a city like Augusta in actually using that foundational document day to day? Where do things get complicated?
Well, what's really interesting is understanding not just what is in a charter, but maybe more importantly, what shouldn't be. Vinson Institute had this great analogy. They said you don't need the role of the dog catcher articulated in the charter.
Okay.
Because you might want to change it. Maybe tomorrow it needs to be a cat catcher, or more realistically, the role evolves. The point is specific fluctuating details, things like salaries, business regulations, land use policies, even down to the rental prices for park pavilions. Those things are much better handled in ordinances.
Because ordinances are easier to change than the charter itself.
Exactly. The charter is meant to be the bedrock, the Constitution. Ordinances are the day-to-day rules you build on top of it, and they need to be flexible.
So basically, they're trying to strip out the operating manual details and just keep the architectural blueprint, right? Makes sense for a document meant to last decades. Which leads to the obvious question, why now? Why is Augusta reviewing its charter? This one was passed back in the mid-90s, so it's about 30 years old.
Precisely. And connecting that to the bigger picture, the Vinson Institute gives a few key reasons why communities do this. One is to protect against some legal risks, making sure the language aligns with current state law. Another is to deal with outdated language. Believe it or not, some city charters out there are 100 years old.
Wow, 100 years?
Yeah, and they might contain stuff that just doesn't make sense anymore. But crucially, it's about ensuring the charter continues to fit the needs of the local community as those may change. The goal, as they put it, is allowing Augusta-Richmond County to be governed in a more effective and efficient way, making sure the blueprint still works for today's challenges.
Okay, so it's not just spring cleaning, it's about modernizing the whole structure. Now, this Charter Review Committee, the CRC, they were appointed by the commission back in early spring. They've got a big job ahead.
They really do. And they've been working hard. They mentioned they still have the meat of the coconut to crack the really big questions about government form, but they've already removed 100 to 120 pages of text from the original charter. That's a huge amount of streamlining.
Whoa, 120 pages. That's like half the document, isn't it? What kind of stuff did they cut? Is it just trimming, or is there a bigger idea behind it?
Oh, it's definitely a philosophical shift. They focused on three main categories. First, anticipatory language. Stuff from the original consolidation, like language saying police or parks would be consolidated. That's done now, 30 years later.
Right, makes sense. History.
Second, duplicative language. Anything that just repeated state law or the state constitution, those are all ready to preem, so no need to say it twice. And third, and this is really key, they removed items better suited for ordinances.
Ah, back to the dog catcher idea.
Exactly. Things like specific salaries. A $30,000 salary from 30 years ago just doesn't mean the same thing today, right?
Not at all.
Or detailed business regulations, land use policies, all that stuff needs flexibility. The goal is a stable foundational charter, not a policy binder that needs constant updates.
And a big part of this committee's job is getting public input. That's why we have this hearing transcript. They're holding hearings. They've got an online survey. The committee actually mentioned, as of yesterday when the hearing was held, they had over 1,100 responses to this survey. That sounds like pretty good engagement.
It really does. And for anyone listening who wants to track this, the CRC meets every other Thursday. Plus their website, augusta.gov CRC, that has the charter document, all the proposed changes, meeting info. It's all there.
Yeah.
Good transparency.
That's important for something this fundamental. Okay, let's talk timeline and authority. This gets a bit complex, right? They're aiming for maybe March of 2026, theoretically, but the committee also said they're going to take our time and do it right.
Which sounds sensible.
Yeah, and here's the critical part. The CRC's final document, it's a recommending document. It doesn't automatically change anything. It goes simultaneously to the local commission and the legislative delegation in Atlanta and the governor's office.
So multiple eyes on it.
Right. But it's the legislative delegation, the local state senators and representatives, who ultimately gets to decide what to do with it. And if they propose really fundamental changes, those would likely have to come to a vote of the people. So the committee proposes, Atlanta decides, and the public might get the final say on big shifts.
That's a crucial pathway to understand. It's not just a local decision.
Definitely. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The actual forms of government being discussed. Augusta Richmond is currently a unified government or consolidated city-county. Pretty unique, only 8 in Georgia.
Yeah, not many.
And the reasons vary. Athens-Clarke, for instance, consolidated to eliminate duplication of services. Makes sense. Some smaller counties did it because their cities just weren't providing enough services, so the county took over city powers too. It really brings up that core question of how power should be structured.
Absolutely. And the Carl Vinson Institute laid out the main models you usually hear about in these discussions. Understanding these is key to the Augusta debate. You've got the sole commissioner model, usually just in very small counties. One elected person basically runs the show.
Okay, simple enough.
Then the commission manager form. Here, the elected mayor and commission appoint the manager, and it's the manager then is the one hiring the department heads, and those heads report directly to that manager. Often a key thing here is that managers might not need commission approval for, say, employee discipline or terminations. They have real operational control.
So the manager model tries to separate the political side from the day-to-day running of things.
That's the idea, yeah. Then you have the strong mayor model.
Hmm.
Here, the mayor holds significant executive authority. They usually appoint department heads, develop the budget, oversee daily operations. There's a much clearer differentiation between executive responsibilities of the mayor and the legislative responsibilities of the commission. And crucially, strong mayors typically possess a veto over the commission's decisions. Real power there.
Okay, clear separation, powerful mayor. What's the alternative?
The weak mayor model. Now, both the mayor and commission are elected here too, but the mayor tends to not have independent executive authority. They usually have no veto, and they're really just one member of the governing body, often more of a ceremonial head or maybe a tiebreaker vote.
Got it. And that difference between an administrator and a manager we heard about it really seems to hinge on who the department heads report to. But maybe more than that. Does a manager usually have more independent power, like hiring and firing, compared to an administrator who might just carry out what the commission decides? This seems super relevant for Augusta Richmond, since it has both rural and urban parts needing potentially different approaches.
That's a great way to frame it. Yes, typically a manager implies more autonomous operational authority. Hiring, firing, running the administration day to day. An administrator might have a role that's perhaps more tightly bound to executing the commission's directives with less independent leeway, especially on personnel. It really reflects different philosophies about where operational control should lie.
Okay, so after all this careful work by the committee, streamlining the document, considering structures, the real test is the public reaction. What did we hear from the citizens at this public hearing? What were the big themes?
Well, that's where you really heard the passion. A major theme was definitely concerns about the process itself. For example, one person felt the survey questions were overly narrow. They said it almost appeared to suggest a desired response, like asking if Augusta needed a mayor but not specifying what kind of mayor. Felt like a push-pull to them.
That's a fair criticism. Did the committee respond to that during the hearing based on the transcript?
They acknowledged the comment and reiterated their goal was fairness. But other process concerns popped up too. Someone else pointed out that charter changes needing only 6 committee votes. That's the same threshold required to approve a business license. They contrasted that with the 23 majorities needed for state or U.S. constitutional amendments, arguing it erodes confidence in such fundamental changes.
Wow, comparing it to a business license approval really puts a point on it.
It does. And transparency was huge. People asked how the massive population would even know about these changes, especially folks without internet. There was also confusion about accountability, why the CRC's proposals go straight to Atlanta, to the legislative delegation, seemingly bypassing the local commission in some ways.
So a lot of questions about fairness, transparency, and who really holds the power in this process. It's a tough balancing act. And then, of course, the big one, the structure of government itself.
Oh, yeah. The debate over government structure was intense. You had many people questioning the need for any change. One person literally said, "I don't care which one it is. I do prefer that it stays the way it is because I have yet to understand what's the issue."
Kind of an if it ain't broke, don't fix it vibe, or at least prove to me it's broken.
Exactly. Another citizen voiced that classic fear. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, specifically about the strong mayor idea. On the other hand, you had the League of Women voters supporting the city manager model. They argued it would depoliticize day-to-day operations. They also added that if there is veto power, it must come with sufficient safeguards, like needing a supermajority to override.
Interesting nuance there from the League.
And there were real worries about reducing the number of commissioners. People feared fewer checks and balances, and specifically less representation for the 68 to 65% Black community.
That connects directly to representation concerns.
Absolutely, and that leads into accountability and leadership. A former commissioner gave some really stark details. They described the current system. Commissioners are part-time, making $30,000 a year, which they bluntly said can't pay no bills. They pointed out commissioners have no office and, critically, have never written a single evaluation on any department head, even though those heads technically report to the commission.
Wow. So who is holding department heads accountable in that scenario?
That was exactly the point. It highlighted a perceived major flaw, a lack of direct oversight. There was also a strong call for partisan elections, Republican, Democrat, Independent, and moving local elections to November. The reasoning: maximize turnout. They cited figures like 21% turnout in May versus 65% in November general elections. More participation means more representative government, was the argument.
That's a powerful critique of the current system's structure and effectiveness. Seems like accountability is diffused. And the issue of race and representation wasn't just implied, it was stated directly, wasn't it?
Yes, very directly.
Yeah.
One citizen said, "It's still a race issue," talking about past redistricting and feeling that representation doesn't match the community's demographics. And the fear that reducing the commission size could make that imbalance even worse was explicitly stated. For many, this isn't abstract governance theory. It's about fairness and having a voice.
Absolutely. And what about the impact on daily life? Did people connect the charter and government structure to their basic needs?
Oh, profoundly. There was deep frustration about economic stagnation in infrastructure. You heard people say flat out, Augusta is not moving. Specific complaints included, Augusta is shut down at 10:00 at night. Nowhere to eat unless you go to the Waffle House. A lack of real entertainment, like jazz or comedy clubs.
That shutdown at 10 p.m. line is really telling.
Isn't it? People talked about having to go shop in North Augusta because of a lack of grocery stores and restaurants in their own areas. They listed specific areas like South Augusta, Highway 56, Willis Foreman Road, East Boundary, needing basic things like streetlights and sidewalks.
Yeah.
And the roads, described as a patchwork of tar leading to constant potholes, just basic infrastructure failing them.
So a real sense that the current system isn't delivering on fundamental quality of life issues. Did anyone link a specific type of government to fixing this?
Not explicitly, like a strong mayor will build sidewalks. But the overwhelming implication was that the current structure is failing to address these pressing daily needs. And maybe the most powerful point made was about the failing school system. One speaker noted it's had AF for the last 20 years, despite a huge $500 million budget. And they asked rhetorically, who want to live in a community where the schools are failing? That hits hard. It impacts everything, attracting families, businesses, investment.
It really puts the stakes of this charter review in sharp relief. It's not just about governance rules, it's about the community's future viability. And finally, some direct questioning about the effectiveness of consolidation itself.
Yes. Towards the end, a citizen posed a question directly to the Carl Vinson Institute representative present. Do you think Augusta's consolidation has been working for the past 29 years? The way it was asked clearly implied a no, a deep skepticism about whether the whole consolidation experiment from 30 years ago actually delivered on its promises for the average citizen.
So, what does this all mean? I mean, after digging through this, it's clear. This seemingly dry document, the city charter, it's actually this living, breathing foundation. And it can either reflect the needs and hopes of its people, or, as we heard, feel like it's failing them. We've seen the complexity of the structure, the meticulous work of the review committee, but most powerfully, these passionate, sometimes frustrated voices from the community just wanting things to work better.
Right, and it really underscores the need for critical thinking when you encounter this kind of information, whether you're a citizen participating directly or just trying to stay informed. These incredibly varied perspectives highlight just how challenging governance is in a diverse community, how hard it is to craft one single document that truly serves everyone, especially when basic needs schools, jobs, roads, safety feel unmet.
It leaves you thinking, what really stands out to you about the power packed into a foundational document like a city charter? And how do these community voices we heard really highlight that fundamental challenge of making local government truly work for all its citizens?